All right, Catherine, would you like to call the roll?
Sure. Hetzke,
Here.
Bastian,
Absent.
Danicourt,
Here.
Knauer,
Here.
McCord,
Here.
Tidings,
Here.
Nursinger,
Here.
Valentine,
Here.
Sangster, Weisar.
Here.
Okay, we got some minutes.
Yep. Minutes were sent out earlier this week from May 14th, the last public hearing. Everyone had a chance to look at them. Any questions, comments, concerns? Nada?
Entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Wow, there were lots of those.
The
Yeah.
Nine Court
And,
and McCord.
okay.
Sorry, Terry.
I'm good.
Hetzke,
Aye.
Danicourt,
Aye.
Knauer,
Aye.
McCord,
Aye.
Tidings.
Aye.
Next up is our first miscellaneous item. It's a follow-up from our last meeting.
Do our tabled item.
Oh yeah, let's do our tabled item first.
Sorry, no action. I used to be able to.
Oh, fine, we can do
Penfield
that.
Road.
Before we get to what I was gonna say, the one table application that we've had for 2775 Penfield Road, we haven't received any more updates on that project since they last spoke to us. They are working on revising their plans. They have done their perk test. We just haven't seen anything yet. So if the board's comfortable, we can continue to take no action on this application.
Everybody good with that?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So we will take no action.
No action.
Carry on.
How about the miscellaneous item?
How about that? On to our miscellaneous item. Follow-up from the last meeting regarding Taco Bell's canopy proposal and their drive-through. The board asked for more details on what is actually being proposed there, lighting cut sheets, examples of other locations, etc. And they have come back with those responses with detail sheets of the canopy and examples of other locations for the board's reference. All that was included in the drop last week. On the screen is an example of the canopy. So we can continue discussions on it.
Scroll up on the specs.
Below is just a detail about the post in the ground for this thing.
Say, I think a couple things just jumped out at me. First, the bell on there, we would consider that signage, so we have to defer that to the zoning board for a sign package determination on whether they're applying for that or not. So the sign would have to come off. It could just be a standard post. I know, but AJ, I was asking you if you're referencing two 70-watt metal halide floodlights that light up underneath this, well, like a rain diverter or the canopy. Just wonder what the glare would be off of that, or how much light that is with two 70-watt lights underneath that.
I think that based on actually where it's located elevation-wise in relation to the roadway, we probably won't see any glare from the lights. You may see some direct glare from the lights, but probably not. And any reflected glare is going to go down to where the cars are pulling around.
Is that rain diverter a plexiglass kind of a thing, see-through?
I think it's solid metal on the top, and I think it's got, I think there's a colored
Says
photo
right
of
there,
it.
the canopy.
Polycarbonate base with
Polycarbonate.
screen decoration, second surface, aluminum form bell mounted the face.
Aluminum canopy deck.
Yeah, it's an aluminum.
So
it's
in other words,
solid on
it's
the
light
top.
gonna go through it, and
No, I think it's a solid piece, but it's got a semi-reflective.
If
If you
you,
look at the
Underside.
picture, it's
here's a picture of it.
oh yeah, okay.
so it's a solid aluminum top
So-
with a reflective base on it.
Right.
Just with the
So-
camber of it, it's got a little bit of a tilt, which I can understand for the rain. You want the rain to run off the back and not
Oh, I
onto the
see.
car side.
So you'd see light coming this way and then this way.
Yeah.
As long as
Those
it's
incidents
sitting
is angle
down,
of reflection,
Taco Bell
so
sits down from the road, so.
I don't think we'd end up with that much glare.
And then on this one, they show a little bell on the order box, and again, we would determine that to be signage in our
Right.
code. So those two items, we would have to highlight those and reference those, that they would have to go back to the zoning board for determination of additional signage in the building or on the property.
Okay. And this, they still didn't give us any real info on the top side of it, did they?
On this?
Yeah, not the underside, because from the road you won't really see the underside. You'll see, I think you'll see the top side.
From here, it
It's
looks like
low
it's the
enough.
same gray material as this post. And sorry, the projector is not showing it like the computer screen is. Let me see what the other.
Cut sheet specifies the color.
This one shows more of a brown on here, actually.
Right. So it's almost like a
A dark metal color.
square tube, square steel tube with some supports.
They call these, I think they're referring to these as like ribs,
Ribs.
rib plates, quarter-inch
You can
steel.
see the top-down view with the, almost looks like a stainless steel metal roof on
Yeah.
top with the ribs across.
They should specify the snow load that's going to withstand.
It had something
It
about
just
snow
says
in there.
something.
It
Snow
says
load
as
is
required,
required.
but it should be stated, because I think around here, it's like 45 pounds per square foot.
With a cantilever arm like that on the end of that, and that's quite a force you're generating based on the length of the,
Right.
won't be the lever arm on it. Right, okay. Or do you have any other thoughts, concerns? I mean, we approved the exterior of the building back in the fall. They never did the changes, so they're gonna be working on those shortly. And they came back, most recently with this little canopy thing. They want to change the call box and the display menu board. And, so we wanted to bring the canopy part back to the board to make sure you guys are comfortable with that.
Anybody have an issue with it? Any comments? Terry?
No.
Bob?
No,
Doug?
No.
If you're comfortable, we could take a vote on it pending the snow load information. If you're comfortable, I'll verify the snow load and submit
and
additional
that's going to be
information.
in our requirements.
We would send them an approval, pending approval from the town engineer on the snow load requirements on that.
Sure.
And then a reference to the zoning board for the signage piece.
Okay.
The sign board is already approved previously?
They have one today, so we would consider that a replacement in kind of what they already have.
For existing drive-through.
Right. Because there's a bell on that too. Is that part of the signage?
I would just reference, if the zoning board approved it previously with the bell, then, they can replace the bell, but
If they're adding it.
if they're adding it, I don't know it intimately, but I know they don't have the current orange, purple vertical piece at the bottom with the bell on it, because they don't have the canopy, so that would be an additional signage.
Yeah, I meant the bell on the...
Yeah, I guess I haven't been through Taco Bell in a while to...
Does the one on Empire Boulevard have this yet? Isn't there one on Empire Boulevard? Taco Bell?
Yes.
They have this?
And I don't believe so.
I'm not aware that it does.
I think that's still the
So this is the
older.
transition?
Yeah, I think that's still the older style
Right.
setup up there,
Right.
architecture and whatnot. This is the 250 one. I guess this is the first one they want to
Okay.
remodel.
So somebody want to move to approve based on the conditions that we talked about?
Yeah, I'll
Canal.
move to approve the stated conditions.
Second.
Second from
McCord. Okay. Hetzke,
Aye.
Danicourt,
Aye.
Canower,
Aye.
McCord,
Aye.
Tidy.
Aye.
Okay.
All right. Zach, did you have any other miscellaneous?
Not those unless you want to bring up Penfield Place.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk with the board briefly about Penfield Place, nursing home off of Penfield Road. They've resubmitted their pre-Mylar application, and one of the things they came back with, and I wanted to re-verify with this board, is in our final review, we had a long discussion about the emergency generator. They came back and their comments said that they'll set standard hours in the property maintenance agreement for when it's exercised, so it's exercised during the daytime. But my recollection, the board's discussion was that we thought it was pretty noisy and wanted something quieter or a better enclosure on that. they're not proposing something, and I just want to confirm with this board that that was my recollection of the discussion. I think a lot of it came from Councilman Bastian.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Diesel or something.
it's going to be,
It is fuel, like gas, not natural gas.
it's either fuel oil or diesel generated, so it's a little bit noisier. There are different enclosures you can put on it, you know, that can muffle it, so it wouldn't change the model type that they had, but I thought this board's discussion was you'd like to see something a little
Something
quieter
around
in the
it to,
residential neighborhood to.
What? Reduce the sound.
Yeah, okay. That was my recollection. We didn't have anything specifically in the resolution stating that. But when I go ahead and make the comment back and say it needs to be quieter, I just wanted to confirm with this group
Yeah,
that
we're
that
back
was
up.
your determination. Okay.
Is the only holdup right now with that?
They had went away for a while. We hadn't seen anything from them, and then just, it was last week or so, they'd submitted their pre-Mylar review, so whether they were cleaning up stuff on their end or.
Yeah, I drove up there the other day actually to see what was going on. And yeah, they hadn't done anything.
I mean, they don't have approvals to, so, I mean, they shouldn't be starting work until we've signed off and everything else. They've got their approvals from the board. They need to go through the pre-Mylar review, complete easements and Mylars with the staff. They need to get a letter of credit, pre-construction, meeting, all the standard stuff. They've been working on changes or doing something on their end, and then just recently they submitted the plans. And that was one thing that jumped out to us as staff, that wasn't included. So we just wanted to make sure that you guys were still looking the same.
How many levels do they have for those acoustic enclosures? Is there level 3?
I think it goes up to
Level 2?
level 2, and I think they're just giving a standard enclosure.
Standard, level 1, level 2. I believe they were proposing standard.
Yeah, I think they're just proposing a standard enclosure on it.
Yeah, go back down, because there was notes about the TV there.
Can you zoom
Can
out
be
some?
found on sound data sheet.
All right.
So there must
It'd be nice to
another-
know what kind of reduction we were talking about. There you go.
Standard
There we
enclosure.
go.
Yeah, so I think that's what we were looking at. We were close to 80 decibels at
7 meters.
7 meters. You're 25 feet or so away, and you're about 80 decibels. That was what the board's concern. Zach, does it have the next
Still have the
standard?
They only gave it to us
Inverse
for the
square law.
standard.
Yeah,
But we can ask them for what the next
yeah, that was the
level
standard
enclosure is and
enclosure, yeah.
show what the decibel reduction is in that.
Yeah.
I think 80 decibels is pretty loud to be.
Yes.
I mean, if it's exercised during the day, that's fine, but obviously it's meant for times that power is lost, and often that can be at night or during a storm event, and nothing else is running when the power's out except for the generator, so it'll be even more apparent in the neighborhood when everything else, no pools are running or air conditioners or anything else.
Agreed.
Okay, I will follow up with them on that. That's all I had.
Nothing
Miscellaneous items. Let's see, we do have one public hearing tonight for the board, and then we do have 3 projects for July, and we'll give you those at your next work session. Give you the materials for those, and then PRC comment for you at that point.
Okay. So it is 6:44. We can take a short recess and reconvene at 7 o'clock on the dais for the public hearing. Good evening and welcome to the June 11th, 2015 meeting of the Penfield Planning Board. And as always, we will start this meeting off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome everyone. You're in for a gripping evening of site plan and subdivision review. We have one item on our agenda tonight. Zach, would you care to announce it?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Application number 1, BME Associates, 10 Liftbridge Lane East, Fairport, New York, 14450, on behalf of Fedyk Builders, requests under Articles 3-3-10, 8-8-2, and 9-9-2 of the Code for final site plan, subdivision, and EPOD permit approval to construct 18 single-family residential homes as part of the Fox Hill Subdivision, Section 6B, with associated site improvements on 11.53 acres located at 139 Lynx Court, Penfield, New York, 14526. The property is now or formerly owned by Fedyk Builders Incorporated and is zoned R120. The application number was actually misprinted on the agenda that was posted. The application number is actually 15P-0011, SBL number 140.01-1-71.51. Take it away.
Good evening. My name is Peter Bars with BME Associates, appearing tonight on behalf of Fedyk Builders. With me this evening is also Mr. Steve and Mr. Wally Fedyk. We are here this evening to request final subdivision and site plan approval for Fox Hill Subdivision, Section 6B, which is on the rendering over my left shoulder. It is a proposed 18-lot single-family residential subdivision of 11.53 acres. The property is actually located to the east of Watson Road. It is bordered to the west by the existing Fox Hill subdivision, to the south by the Fairview Crossing subdivision, and then to the north and to the east by the Allyn Rise subdivision. The property is zoned R120, but was also part of an incentive zoning action taken by the town board back in 2003. Section 6B consists of the final 18 lots of the Fox Hill subdivision. The layout proposed is consistent with the preliminary and final subdivision approval that was granted by the planning board back on October 9th of 2003 for an overall development as shown here, which was 25 lots on 17 acres. The first 7 lots were actually constructed back in 2004, 2005. The approval and zoning of Fox Hill Section 6 was modified by the town board in February and March of this past year in 2015. Town board modified the zoning with incentives to allow 1 additional lot. So now we are proposing 18 lots within Section 6B, or a total of 26 lots for Section 6. The town board also established minimum lot standards as part of that action. A minimum lot area of 17,130 square feet, a minimum front setback of 30 feet, 10-foot side setbacks, and 30-foot rear setbacks. These modifications were granted by the town board at the request of the applicant, basically in response to the development and the approval and development of the Allyn Rise subdivision taking place to the north and to the east of the development. And that was primarily because that subdivision was approved under incentives for 90-foot lot widths. The town board, recognizing that these lot standards were less than what was in Fox Hill, was willing to grant the applicants to request to modify the lot standards for these lots along the east side. And in turn, what we are proposing is lots 15 through 21 plus lot 26 at a lot width of 95 feet in width. They were originally at 115 feet back in 2003. These 95-foot lot widths still exceed the lot standards of the adjoining lots in Allyn Rise. That minimum lot width is 90 feet. As a result, we are proposing the additional lot number 26. I believe this was reviewed with the planning board back in February and March, and also by the PRC as part of that town board process. Section 6B, as shown here and is represented here on this overall rendering, basically completes the last piece of a puzzle of the Fox Hill Fairview Crossing subdivisions. It completes the connection between Fox Hill, which is to the west, Fairview Crossing to the south, and now Allyn Rise, which is to the north. The street layout proposed is as approved in 2003 with the overall Section 6 development. It will extend Lynx Court to the north and tied into the Allyn Rise subdivision, and will include a dedicated street cul-de-sac to the west side of Lynx Court. All lots will be served by public water and public sewer through extensions of existing facilities that are located either within Fox Hill Section 6A or up in Allyn Rise. Stormwater runoff for the subdivision will be managed through a stormwater management plan that is in compliance with the overall plan that was developed for the Fox Hill subdivision. It will honor the existing drainage patterns. What it will do is currently the drainage pattern is a west to east drainage pattern down this slope. It will basically take this runoff that is currently draining to these homes in Allyn Rise and also homes down here in 6A. It will intercept that runoff. It will collect it within the storm sewer system of the street and convey it into the existing stormwater management facility that was constructed actually with Fairview Crossing, but it was constructed as part of Fairview Crossing Section 5 and Fox Hill Section 6. Sidewalks will be provided along Lynx Court as agreed upon with the town board as part of the zoning with incentives program. We did prepare a short form environmental assessment form for this application and provided it to you with our application materials. These 18 lots proposed do not alter the findings that were in the original negative declaration for Section 6 that was issued back in 2003 for this project. We did receive the PRC comments. We do not have really any issue with any of those comments. We will provide written responses to those comments along with revised plans, but we did want to wait till this evening to receive any comments from the board so we could incorporate those if necessary also. So at this time, myself or Mr. Fedyk could answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay, thanks, Pete. Could you comment on the grading plan for me and explain? It seems as though on the west side of the cul-de-sac there's some pretty steep slopes, almost as if they're sitting in a bowl. And I guess one of my comments is on the north side where it ties in with Allyn Rise. Yeah, the northwest portion, is that going to be, what's that going to look like from a topography standpoint?
When preparing the grading design for these cul-de-sac lots especially, we consulted obviously with the Fedyks, and there was a couple principles that we were guided by based on direction that we received from them. First of all, was being sure that we graded a house pad deep enough that would accommodate the houses that they plan to build and could accommodate whether it's a sunroom expansion, something like that. So it was to be sure we had a 50-foot house pad. But then, not to start the slope right at the rear of the house pad, it was obviously to provide livable, usable rear yard space in case somebody wants to put a pool in, wants to put a deck in, a patio, anything like that. So the parameters that we worked out with the Fedyks there was to provide at least another 30 to 50 feet of relatively level ground so that they would have usable backyard space. And then to grade the slope back in to tie up here. The slopes that are proposed are cut slopes, so they are more stable naturally than a fill slope would be. They also are at a grade that can be stabilized through vegetation. Then it would be up to the individual homeowner to maintain those, but geotechnically we're not anticipating any issues with those slopes. The homeowners can get creative if they wish to terrace it or anything like that. But the primary thing is providing them usable area, but we also are providing storm inlets to be sure we collect the drainage at the toe of those slopes so we don't have drainage issues also.
Okay, so way back when the subdivision was originally constructed on Fox Hill, in looking at it, it's almost as if it's an unnatural slope up in the backyards of what are the numbers? I don't know the addresses off the top of my head, but that border those.
In this area here?
No, to the north, more to the north, yeah. 36, 34.
In this area here?
Yeah, and It was that the kind of thing that initially was excess fill, and then when this went in, you have probably 25 years of growth in someone's property, and they don't want to get rid of the privacy that's afforded to them by that? Or is that not what created that high elevation
This
in between the two? Yeah.
And I don't, Steve, I don't know, I'm not sure if that was the natural high point of the property there, but I would like to also identify part of the reason which dictates some of these grades. Obviously, climbing the hill here, we're fixed by this grade here. We have to tie in
Right.
to the road here. So that sets the elevation. The town has design criteria for this intersection. So,
Right.
This kind of becomes a fixed elevation. We can climb grade through this first segment of roadway, but a cul-de-sac by nature cannot be greater than 3%. They just don't work. They need to be level, so that kind of fixes this grade, and by this time, we are cutting into the hill.
Okay.
So, the fact of the matter is, when I referenced earlier that this is the last piece of a puzzle,
Right.
that is what it is, and you're actually kind of having to work with what's been left, point A, point B, and point C, and working it out the best we can. And we feel we've done that it will still be, that it will still function.
Okay. Okay, and then does Lynx Court continue on the north into Ashland Rise? Is that called Lynx Court right now? Or is it changing its name? Does that change its name?
It still is Lynx
It's
Court,
still
correct,
Lynx
Mark?
Court, as I thought. Okay, Doug, do you have?
Yep, while we're on the grading subject, so how steep is that slope?
I think they ranged anywhere from 2-on-1 and 3-on-1.
So the steepest would be 2-on-1?
Correct. I think there are some 2-on-1 slopes.
Any idea what you're going to be seeding it with, or?
With the grading operations, it'll likely be, the slope stabilization mix that the county recommends, the County Stormwater Coalition recommends. We'll utilize that to establish the vegetation, and then
And some kind of erosion control?
matting.
on there?
Yeah, if necessary, yes. Mhm.
Okay. The areas up on top of the slope are going to be kind of inaccessible, but they're still on a couple of those properties.
In these
What
areas here,
happens-
especially on the corners, yes.
Yeah, what happens to those areas? Are they going to be maintained, or how do they
That'll
get
be
up there?
homeowner discretion. I do know these slopes are 3-on-1s, which are mowable. So that, like I said, that'll be homeowner discretion.
Where will the peak of the hill be? Like, what's the highest elevation? Is it on
And
one of the
this-
existing?
highest elevation is right along this common
Okay,
section
so
line.
right at the property
Yeah.
line.
Mhm.
And everything drains to the east.
Yeah, it does, it really has a northwest to southeast drainage pattern. And as we said, so we're introducing inlets here to collect it, pipe it, we're gonna intercept what's here, but one of the other things we're doing, it was something Mr. Fedyk had heard, was also we're adding grading an inlet here to be intercept runoff that is coming down on these existing homes here in Fox Hill, Section 6A. That was something Mr. Fedyk asked us to make sure we designed into this. So it is to intercept all this runoff that could leave the section, get it collected, and into the street storm sewer system.
All right, so it won't affect, or you're actually improving the situation with the existing homes in
Correct.
Section 6?
Correct, yes.
And what about in the previous sections up along Fox Hill?
In here?
Yeah.
Yeah, with
What-
this
what
being a
would be the
high
effect?
point, yeah, everything. I'm not sure how I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure how these backyards drain, whether they drain to the back or not, but I do know nothing is draining to the west from this.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions from the board? Anyone in the audience care to comment on this application? Nobody? Okay. Well, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you for
Nice
your
job.
time.
It's amazing that you grace us with your presence. President of BME.
Nothing but the best for you.
All right, we'll call this hearing closed. Thanks for coming, everybody.
We wanted to capture some of the runoff that's supposed to, there's quite an established hedgerow between Allyn Rise and Fox Hill, which is good, because the Fox Hill homes actually are going to be 3 stories high with a walkout basement. You have a walkout basement and then 2 stories potentially depending on the home choice, looking up the hill. So I had some initial concerns being an Allyn Rise. It looks like you have a home that's overtowering your house from the west, maybe block out the sun. But as he had stated, I drove out there and looked, you're already established by Allyn Rise. Allyn Rise actually has 3 lots on the north side that abut to their own property. So you're kind of tied by that elevation and you're tied by the lower end. But there's a very established tree line between Allyn and Fox Hill, which, I mean, there's 50, 60 plus height trees, which will be a nice buffer through there. So I added comments, obviously, to keep that tree line and maintain that through construction. And then to pick up the drainage, rather than they had kind of shown it sheet flowing through there. Anytime you try to sheet through a natural hedgerow, you never quite know where the water's going to end up. You can't really control it and make sure that there is basins on Allyn Rise in the backyards, but when the water kind of finds its own way, sometimes it concentrates and ends up somewhere else. So I added some comments either to swale it, add some inlets on the Fox Hill side, and then bring it down to the pond on their end just to better control that. I think Mr. Vars covered the difference between, at first he said it was incentive zoning, which it's not.
Right.
It was zoning with incentive, and this was one of the first projects that actually came to the town. Fellowville Funeral Home was the first, but this was zoning with incentive. So this property actually was rezoned to R120. I believe it was 1 acre at the time for an incentive zoning amount. The other pieces that go to the town board, and typically this board wouldn't see an incentive zoning application, because incentive zoning, basically the underlying zoning remains the same. Through the incentive zoning application, they can get some higher densities through that. This was actually rezoned, but with incentive that they pay per lot. So that's why it's with this board. They went back to the town board late winter. We brought it to this board. They wanted to add 1 more lot just to make the lot sizes match up with Allyn Rise on the east side a little bit better. Those are 90-foot wide lots. The west side of, which is this piece, is Fox Hill, was at 115-foot wide lot. So in order to kind of match up backyards to backyards, they added 1 more lot in there. So they came to this board. We talked about that. We talked about the sidewalks at that time. They've shrunk those down to 95 feet, which afforded them 1 more lot in this section in that east side. So it doesn't affect anything on the cul-de-sac. It doesn't change anything that abuts the existing homes there. It just more closely matches what's on Allyn Rise in those backyards. So that's the distinction of why it went to the town board and why it's back at this board versus an incentive zoning application. And I think AJ, as you were talking about the one point, and Zach's got up there, I don't know if that's a natural hill. I've always kind of known it to be a natural hill, but I can't say that it wasn't fill material. But
I think some of it's fill.
If it was,
It looks like it's just from,
if it was all developed at
Yeah,
one
just from
point in time,
looking
it
at
probably
it.
could have taken that little knob off and it would have
Yeah.
fit. But I think the neighbors that are now, they're now kind of like that the backyard
Oh,
goes
they-
up and
yeah.
it buffers them from the other side. And then most currently you can see
That hill.
the elevation rise up in the back. It affords them some screening in the backyard from what would now be the next section, and then same thing on
Well, there.
natural screen.
Allyn Rise. You go to the other side and you can see it's a mowable slope. They are mowing it.
Yeah, but on this
it's
side, it's looking an awful lot like the 2-on-1 slope that he was talking about.
It'll be a little bit steeper, and I think as you had shared, we need some erosion control mats on that.
Well,
and
it's
make
not
sure
mowable, and
So I think a
So-
ground vetch or something like, or whatever,
yeah,
wildflower mix or something on the slope, just let it be natural.
so it's not mowable, and you really probably can't even drive a tractor up there, so how are they gonna maintain the,
I think
Well,
just
there are some these.
plant it with
you
some
just let it be.
perennial
Go
type
down.
Just let it go
vegetation,
wild.
just let it go wild. And
I got a buddy who lives in Perryton off of Fisher's Road, Wenham Drive or Wenham Lane, and in the back of his house is very similar to that. It goes up and there's Parkview Terrace or something that's above it, and really steep. You know, he's terraced it a little bit and put some stuff up there, but it's
It's
really-
everyday mowing, you'd have,
yeah, you don't cut it.
yeah.
Right, well, they could put a terrace and almost like a ramp to get up to the upper area, you know.
Yeah.
something so
On
they
the
can
other side,
maintain
they
it.
do have a retaining wall actually on the, AJ, when you were out there
National
today
Rise,
looking at
yeah.
on the National Rise side, they put a retaining wall on the lower end and then did the slope up above there. So I assume they're gonna keep that, unmaintained and just plant the slope because you can't even get a tractor or lawnmower up there.
Right.
You're several feet off, so I assume they're just gonna leave it in a more natural state on that upper side.
They're aware of these folks here, just want to, That's what we were
We
talking
received
about.
that today. Those were comments from the neighbor. We can look at
This
those.
house is, if you scroll down,
Was
two
this
houses
one
over on the right.
Okay.
Right one there, yeah. Sounds like if anything with these improvements, it's gonna improve the drainage in this area,
It's this one.
because everything's gonna go more to the east.
Yeah, I think he had some concerns just to make sure that the drainage didn't come back towards him.
Right.
Obviously, it's cutting down, we can sit with him and show him the plans and share with him if he, hopefully we can answer his question concerns, but I think he was concerned that, that that's gonna be built up or filled
No.
in
This one?
Yeah.
and drained down to him,
The
but
top one's Patrick, second one's not.
Oh, that's right.
that would, the grades are gonna fall away from that house in the back and
Mhm.
drain down into there, and it drains to the bottom of the cul-de-sac.
Right.
So hopefully that'll improve any drainage
Should improve,
situation
yeah.
he has now, but we can, go through his comments. I don't know if anybody else has any other concerns about, what he shared. Let's see, to date, that's the only comments we have received.
Yeah, I think he's right, he's kind of stuck between here and here, there. You
This is
gotta
Pleasant Place.
do the best you can.
It's
with
the
it.
last piece of the subdivision, so everything else is already built, the road's already built, starting and ending point's already
Yeah,
built.
20, 30 years probably. I think the first part had to be in the mid-80s,
Okay.
Fox Hill, I would think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
so what are we gonna do, make the,
So,
So,
Need a
table,
table
so we get all this
resolution?
stuff?
yeah, if you want to table it, pending preparation of
preparation of the
draft
draft approval?
Yep.
approval, also asking them to submit responses to PRC comments and revised plans, and we can get those to you in your next drop, and if the board's comfortable with the proposed changes and the responses, we can entertain an application, or entertain a motion next time.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll make the motion to table it this time then.
Second?
I'll second.
Okay, Hetzke,
Aye.
Danicourt,
Aye.
Canower,
Aye.
McCord,
Aye.
Titans.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, that's
Any other business?
what we got tonight. So I say we'll have, the one item at the work session unless we have any other miscellaneous, and then we'll give you your drop information for July. That meeting.
Perfect. All right, good night, Gracie.
Thanks, board.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for all your efforts.
Stay dry out there.